Behind the Shades.
Hello, Becca. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you doing?
I am well. It is a nice, warm afternoon here in Toronto, Canada. I can't wait to go outside, work on my tan a little bit, then come back in.
It's beautiful here today too. It's 75, sunny, cool breeze, perfection.
Perfect. So, what have you been up to this weekend so far?
Been building a deck. So I've been using some power tools, which I love to do, and spent some couple hours out at the park. I have three boys. So was pitching baseballs and shooting basketballs and running around for a while. And now I get to have fun talking to you.
Perfect. Perfect. Did you dunk on any of your three kids?
No, I don't have my ups. They're not as good as they used to be. I used to have some more ups, but I don't know. I need to work on that. Box
Yeah.
jumps or
Or,
something, right?
yeah, exactly. Or maybe just toned it down subconsciously because they're your kids, right? You want to outperform them.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty competitive, so.
So I know you joined us today to help women with their health, making sure that they don't wait until they're 1,000 years old to fix things,
Yeah.
right? Because it's very important. And as we touched on, sometimes women spend a lot of time taking care of the world and they forget sometimes to take care of themselves. So let's get right into it. Why don't you introduce yourself, let people know where they can find you, and tell us a little bit about yourself before we get to know a lot about you.
Perfect. So my name is Becca. I am a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a board certified holistic health practitioner. So that's a lot of words. What does that mean? I utilize functional labs to create health rebuilding roadmaps for my clients to follow so that they can overcome their health obstacles and make a difference for their families, their communities, and the world. I believe that it's never too late to start living a vibrant, connected, and fulfilling life, and that starts with better health. I have three boys. I am never bored. It is never quiet. It is never clean, my house, but we have a lot of fun. And I'm also someone who spent decades with chronic health issues. So I really understand what it's like to be on that side of things. I understand what it takes to get to the other side of things. And I really love to spread the message of hope that it is never too late. You're never too old to make huge improvements in your health. But I'm hopeful that most people won't wait around until they're 50 or 60 to do something about it.
So take us from the beginning. You mentioned that this is something that you want to do. You're helping women understand that although it's never too late, earlier is better. So
Yeah.
what got you to start this journey in helping women?
I've had my own health journey. A lot of us that are in this industry got interested in it at the beginning because we've had our own health issues. And for years and years and years, I just wasn't believed, helped, supported by traditional medicine. And there's a time and a place for traditional medicine. I've had my life saved by it, but I didn't get the help that I needed. And so I had to go down a different route. And I went into the functional health world and got the help I needed, fell in love with it, said, I figured out what I want to be when I grow up, and went into my own business to support women with their own health. And now I run a thriving practice. My brand is called Holistic Obsession, and it's really because I'm obsessed with finding the root causes to my clients' health issues. We don't band-aid symptoms. We don't just manage their chronic, major symptoms they're dealing with on a regular basis. There's always a root cause behind those symptoms. Symptoms are just information, so we have to backtrack. We have to go deeper. And so, yeah, you can find me at holisticobsession.com. That's my website, and learn more about me. But it is my mission to change the world, and that starts with women's health. I believe that women have the capacity to be change makers on so many levels, but we spend decades and decades and decades taking care of everyone around us. And that can leave us utterly depleted, where we're not functioning, Maybe you feel like you're just doing a terrible job at everything. Like, I'm a terrible mom, I'm a terrible spouse, I'm a terrible employee, I'm a terrible business owner, whatever that is. Because if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't give yourself what you need on a daily basis to operate at your highest level, well, yeah, you're not going to serve the people you love the way you want to.
Sometimes women may feel that it's a bit selfish if I take care of me instead of my children. It's a bit selfish if I take care of me versus my husband. What are some of the reasons that you think women take care of others? And if those are some of the reasons that I mentioned, why do you think that is, Becca?
Yeah, so there's some things that I call the myths of self-care. And you hit one of them on the head, is that I think our society has taught us, and in order to be a good mom, you have to put yourself last. In order to be a good spouse, you have to put yourself last. But I think that's total BS. In order to serve the people you love, you have to take care of yourself. There's that whole idea of you have to pour out of yourself to serve others. You're not a cup. You're not a pitcher. We don't pour out of ourselves, because all that does is deplete us. I want women to start thinking of themselves as a serving bowl. You are a bowl. And self-care is just the little things you do every day. Rest, play, diet, sunlight, getting out in nature, whatever it looks like for you, that fill up your bowl. Fill up your bowl with self-care activities, with prioritizing rest and play for yourself. And then you can serve those you love from the overflow, versus pouring, that whole concept of pouring out. And I feel like in our society has taught us as women that if we are to prioritize ourselves, that it's selfish, but it's the opposite. It is selfless. Because if you imagine the burnt out, strung out, overwhelmed, exhausted, depleted version of yourself versus the peaceful, energetic, delighted, stable, fun-loving version of yourself, who's going to do a better job of taking care of the people that you love? I think we all know what the answer to that one is, though.
I agree, because you need to be healthy enough to take care of others. If you're sick, if you're on your medical bed, if you're on your deathbed, God forbid, then you are not of service to anyone. And although I may use the cup analogy, I use it in the way that you use it, meaning that you have to be pouring from the overflow, right? Like if you're depleted yourself and you have nothing to give, where are you pulling from? Do you help women identify boundaries in regards to that aspect specifically?
Oh, 100%. So many of us are people pleasers, where we say yes to all the things. And we are constantly trying to solve everyone's problem. We were, taking over someone's consequences, saying it's easier if I just do this myself. Or feeling like we even have to earn self-care. We have to earn time for rest and play. It is your right as a human being. Rest and play, they are not luxuries. They are necessities for life. Because if you think about it, if you are in stress mode, you are like a racehorse with those blinders on. You're tunnel vision, right? And you're just stressed and overwhelmed and stressed and overwhelmed. And typically the first things to go when you're stressed and overwhelmed are rest and play. I don't have time to rest. I don't have time to play. I don't have time for self-care because I'm stressed and overwhelmed and I got problems to solve, right? But if you do the things that you used to do, that you stop doing because you're stressed and overwhelmed, those are the very things that get you out of stress mode. If you're like in that tunnel vision where you are not looking right or left, there are very often very simple solutions to your problems, but it's in your peripheral vision. And if you are in stress mode, you're not going to see those often simple solutions. And so self-care is literally just rest and play, whether that's a 10-minute nap, whether it's a walk, whether it's a bath, whether it's going to your favorite store and just tootling around. It doesn't have to be a day at the spa, which most people, I think these days, are like, self-care, it's expensive and it takes a whole day. No, it doesn't. It can be 10 minutes here and there throughout your day. And it usually actually works better if you have small chunks of time throughout your day to just reset your nervous system, get out of stress mode into relaxation, right? And so many women feel like they have to deserve self-care, earn it. Don't. Our care tasks, they're going to be there. They're not meant to drain down to zero before you get rest and play, right? We should schedule in self-care activities amidst all of our care tasks. It's not meant to be finish your to-do list and only then may you get self-care. That's not how this works, or it's not how it should work anyway, my opinion.
I know many women who the spa, that is their definition of self-care. And one of the things I love, there's this one of my friends, she says, I'm going to take a self-care day. I'm going to go see Rodrigo. Who's Rodrigo? Rodrigo is the masseuse at the spa that she goes to. So when you mentioned that it's an expensive habit, I could imagine, because when you look at the services provided to men in comparison to women, the price range is so vast, right? Like women will get, they'll get the facial, they get the pedicure, the manicure, they get the massage, all these things, and it can run you up $100, couple hundred, maybe even $1,000.
Oh yeah.
And if that is your definition of self-care, how many women can truly afford that, right?
No. And maybe like a once a year, you go do something like that, or twice a year, great. But that's not going to keep your nervous system out of stress mode. That's going to be fun and great, but it's the little things you do for yourself every day. It's making sure you're getting restorative sleep. It's eating nourishing food. It's getting sunlight. It's making sure that you do things, even if it's 10 minutes, something that delights you, that brings you joy every single day. Because we all have, I love bucket analogies. We all have a stress bucket. And when that gets full, we lose our buffer. We lose the capacity to handle what life throws at us. So then any little thing, because life will happen, that is a guarantee, life will happen, right? And it's going to start throwing things at you. If you have no buffer built in, if your stress bucket is already full, then that's going to cause that stress bucket to overflow. And then all of a sudden you're yelling at the kids and you're irritable, and you're miserable, you're not functioning, or you just want to hide in your bedroom and not talk to anybody, right? But if you can empty out that stress, then when life throws something at you, you're going to be able to better handle that. You're not going to already be at capacity when that thing happens. And I bet anybody listening to this can name like 3 or 4 things that is triggering a stress response. So that could be a job, or a relationship, the state of the world, COVID, whatever it is, just being over scheduled even can be a huge stressor. I know it can be one of mine. And so the other side of that, though, is our body responds to internal stressors just as much, if not more. Internal stressors could be blood sugar dysregulation, infections in your gut, leaky gut, hormone imbalance, adrenal issues, toxic burden, so heavy metals or mold toxicity, just different things. And so there's kind of 2 trains of thought as far as when I'm working with clients. We work on those external stressors. So anything mental, emotional, trauma, grief, anything like that, as well as those internal stressors. And if you kind of attack your stress bucket from both variables there, making sure you're balancing your blood sugar, making an anti-inflammatory diet, making sure you're drinking water. We're like plants that talk. We need water, we need sunlight, we need nutrients, right? Just think of yourself as this beautiful houseplant. You have to nourish yourself. And so it's not always simple. It's not always easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. Pick one thing to change. One, get really good at it. Then pick another thing to change. Get really good at that. And so on and so forth. Get 1% better every day. And before you know it, you have made massive changes. Just like that whole I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time. Well, how do you make time? Have better boundaries, right? If you're constantly solving everyone else's problems for them, you're not going to have time for yourself. So pick one person that you're constantly jumping in their backyard to solve their problems for, or pick one environment, like, okay, work problems or home problems. Just again, pick one thing and start making those shifts. Just create that list, pick one thing off your list a week to work on.
So it sounds simple, at least it knows to me, right? More sleep, boundaries, drink water, because we're plants, right? Like we want to make sure we're as nourished as possible.
Yeah.
Why do you think, even though it sounds simple and it sounds like it's something that we should be doing, what is preventing people from actually doing it consistently, let alone starting to do it?
I think that we live in a society where we want things immediately. We want a quick fix. We want a pill to take. We're dealing with, 3 kids in sports. So we're going through drive-throughs or when we're not taking the time to map out our week, right? And when you do those daily lifestyle things, it's not going to be an overnight shift. And that can feel frustrating because it takes time doing those things consistently to really get the benefit of them. If you do it once a week, you're not going to see the benefit, right? But it's a matter of planning out your week. When I map out my week on my planner, I have here's my work tasks. Here's so-and-so's got a doctor's appointment. My other kid's got a baseball game or whatever. And I look at my calendar and say, okay, where on this day, on Monday, I have this, I have a 10-minute break here and I have a 30-minute break here. And I plan it out, map it out, because I don't know anyone that's just sitting around eating bonbons all day, waiting to make these shifts. Everyone's busy. Most people are somewhat overwhelmed by their schedules. And so there's that saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And so it's about taking on a Sunday, take 30 minutes with your planner and integrate in those rest and play activities with your schedule. Pick one aspect of your health to start shifting. So when I'm designing health rebuilding roadmaps for people, typically based on functional lab work that shows all the biochemical stressors in their body, but when I'm creating that, we do it based on the DRESS acronym, which is diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and then therapeutic supplementation when warranted by lab works. I'm not one of those people that just fling supplements at someone, because that's not going to do any good. And so diet, if you want to start with diet, gluten, dairy, corn, sugar, they're some of the most inflammatory foods out there. Pick one and reduce it, see how you feel. Or you can go Whole30 or start eating paleo. Maybe it's just sugar. Maybe you need to actually have a very good conversation with yourself. When I am stressed out, how am I coping? Am I coping with sugar? Am I coping with a food addiction? Am I coping with late night, Netflix binges so I'm not taking care of my sleep? Am I coping with Amazon shopping? We have to be honest with ourselves. And coping truly is, we might think like, well, I'm gonna, that I'm not gonna let that person talk to me that way, or I'm not gonna, it's all about, people think it's about somebody else, but it's not. Self-care, boundaries, coping is about what I am going to do. What is my response going to be? How am I choosing to take care of myself? And when we stop making it about somebody else, that puts the responsibility back on us, which can feel scary. It's easy to not take care of yourself when it's somebody else's fault. When it's, when you're focusing on everyone else around you, but it's no one's responsibility but your own. And so start mapping it out. Choose one of the categories. Is it movement? Some people are like, I don't really like to exercise. I don't want to go to the gym and lift weights. Don't go on a hike, take a dance class, garden. Find a way to move your body that lights you up, that feels really good. For me, one of the biggest aspects of my mental health is walking. I go for walks. I go for a walk daily, ideally, because that makes me feel so good. It's just a matter of starting with one thing, taking responsibility. Again, it's what I am going to do. And know that there's no such thing. If you want long-term better health, there's no such thing as a magic pill to take. It doesn't exist unless you just want to be on pharmaceuticals all the rest of your life to manage some diagnosed condition, which I don't think anybody really wants to do.
For me, as I got older, I realized that my self-care routine was changing,
No? Okay.
right? Because I required different activities to get where I wanted. Is that something that you go through with your clients as well, where it's adapting versus it being this fixed thing? Do
Yes.
this, do this, do this, and you continue forward?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I'm 44 years old. When I was 30, my self-care looked different from 35. Then it looks different than I'm 44. And I think when you make your self-care routine a strict, rigid thing, that in of itself becomes a stressor, right? People are like, okay, I have to do 30 minutes of self-care a day. And if I don't, then I'm going to be failing at life. No, don't do that to yourself. I have my clients make what's called a self-care buffet. And it's a PDF I send them. And it's where you can list low energy activities, medium energy activities, and high energy activities. And I say in the morning, check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what would make me feel really good today? Is it a low energy activity? Is it going to sit, and outside and feeling the breeze on your face? Is it going for a walk? Is it like having a dance party in the kitchen with your kids? What is it? And it can be this fluid thing. If you make it this rigid concept, you're going to stop doing it. It's going to stop being fun. It should be fun. It should be delightful. And, that's why I like the idea of making that list, because just like when you're thinking, you're driving, like, oh, I want to eat at that restaurant. Oh, that restaurant looks good. But as soon as someone says, hey, where do you want to go eat? They're like, I have no idea. I can't think of any places, right? And so if you have that list already made for you, or that you've made for yourself, you have it to pull from, and it doesn't have to be like a huge thinking activity. And self-care should change. My self-care when I was single and with no kids is different than, being married for almost 20 years and having 3 kids. And that's okay. And it can vary from week to week. Don't put yourself in the self-care box. It doesn't have to be that way. It should be flexible. It should be fluid. It should grow as you grow, right? As you start biohacking your lifestyle, maybe it started out with a 10-minute walk, and maybe a year later you're doing a 10-mile hike. Your self-care activities should grow as you grow.
And you mentioned a good point where you said that from different stages in your life, like we mentioned age, right? As you got older, but you also mentioned if you're in a relationship and if you're not in a relationship, it may change as well. Is a self-care that, if I were to look at it as someone that's not in a relationship, can I have my self-care be, okay, this is a self-care I needed when I was single and free, versus, okay, I'm in a relationship now. How about I do a self-care with the person I'm in a relationship? Does that happen?
Oh, 100%. And I know for me personally, I'm a total introvert, extrovert. I'm both. And it depends on the situation, right? And sometimes I am fueled by being with somebody else and spending that time. And sometimes I'm like, I need alone time. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just need to be by myself for a little while. And so right now, or at my phase of life, self-care activity, I was out for 2 hours at the park, playing ball with my kids. That was self-care for me because I'm outside, I'm in the sun, I'm moving my body, I'm playing with the kids. It's fun. A self-care activity, if say maybe you don't have kids, but you have a partner, it could be getting outside and going on a hike. It could be getting kayaks and, kayaking on the lake. I think that it's although important to integrate in all the types. And again, it starts with a conversation. What makes me feel good? For me, I have found most often that play rejuvenates me more than rest, like taking a nap or something like that. I get more filled up. My serving bowl gets more filled up by, going and hanging out with a friend than maybe taking a bath, right? So again, it doesn't have to be, self-care doesn't have to look a certain way. Make it look like you need it to look like. So if that's spending time with your partner after a long, busy week, if that's doing something fun with a kid, or if that's doing something alone because you need that alone time, then make it what you need. It's about you, and it, again, depending on your season of life, depending on your relationship status between single, kids, whatever, it doesn't have to be self-care. It doesn't have to be only about you or only with somebody else. You should have a variety of things to choose from.
And that's something I try to push to people, is that make time for you, even if it goes down to the point where you have to download Google Calendar on your phone, because I live and die by that, and just say that Friday night is me. And Becca, you raise a good point. I'm the same way. Like, when I rest, that's at the end of my day, but that is just to maintain what I've poured into my, as you put, your service bowl, right? Like, I'm the type of person that I want to do the play. I want to go out and I want to, let's say if I go to an event, or if I take myself to a dinner or something along those lines. And I know with the last couple of years, some people found it a lot more difficult to go out and be with people. And maybe some people who were an extrovert, they're more so an introvert, and they don't have that balancing act like how you have it. Do you help people rediscover themselves so they can be a person that looks for self-care?
Oh, 100%. And, so often as women, as we get older and as we just live life, we create these limiting beliefs about what is okay for us to do, or what we should be doing, or what's the right thing. I can't do that because I shouldn't do that because, I posted a video of just the other day. Obviously I have silver hair. This is my natural hair color. And I decided to get some like neon pink little hair extensions that I wore the other day. And I was like wearing, and it brought me so much delight to wear a neon hot pink hair extension in my hair. It delighted my soul. And part of what I was saying was like, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Like, someone might think I look ridiculous because probably those things are marketed towards 8-year-old girls, but I don't care. It brought me so much joy. And so it's really about finding what brings you joy. And I think, it can be hard because I've asked women before, like, well, what do you want? And they say, I don't know. They're like, I don't know who I am anymore. I have forgotten. A dear friend of mine is a licensed therapist and women's coach, and she calls it clearing the stage. That we are this woman that plays all of these roles, right, in our lives: mother, employee, business owner, partner, spouse, aunt, sibling, whatever. And that we can get lost behind all the clutter of those roles. So she calls it, you said, you've got to clear the stage of all that clutter to remind yourself of who you are. And sometimes that looks like therapy. I did a 3-month therapy program last year that I needed to release a lot of stored trauma and grief that I was holding in my body. Sometimes it's working with someone like me, where we're working on, self-sabotage and limiting beliefs, as well as, oh my gosh, you've got mold toxicity and your adrenals are a mess and your progesterone is tanked, and your gut, we've got some bacterial overgrowth and a parasite, or whatever you've got going on. But I would encourage anybody to find somebody that's a good fit for you, whether that's, EMDR, that's talk therapy, that's energy, that's breath work, that's someone like me who's working on your mental and your physical health, because I believe both are completely tied together. Is find someone who can remind you of who you are and be able to pull that out of you, because it's hard when you're in it. It's hard to see, what's that saying? It's hard to see the forest for the trees, right? Like, it can be hard to remember who you are as a woman when you're not mothering, when you're not wifing, when you're not working, whatever. And so it can help to talk it out with somebody, whether that's someone you're hiring, or it's a dear friend, or it's your mom, or it's, whoever that is, have those conversations. Start having those conversations. Remind yourself who you are, what you want out of life, and go after it. If you want to go back to school at the age of, 45 to start a new career, go for it. If you want to wear short shorts and a bikini at the age of 65, go for it. If you want to wear a pink hair extension in your hair because it delights your soul, go for it. Just like it's never too late to make these shifts in your health, it's never too late to discover who you are again, or who you have become. Because when you are a caretaker for decades and decades and decades of everyone around you, you can kind of get lost in that shuffle. But who you are, still there. It's still there. It's just got to peel back the layers, clear the stage, and remember who you are. And part of that is that self-care, that rest and play activities. What I did, I used to love to paint. All the time. I'm a terrible painter. I have no artistic talent, but it was so much fun for me. Right now, painting doesn't sound very delightful for me, right? So I think, well, that used to really bring me joy and delight me. What could I do if I just had an hour to do whatever I wanted? What would that be? It's checking in with yourself, having those conversations with yourself or somebody else, and rediscovering who you were, who you are, and who you want to be.
I remember asking one of my friends, does she remember what she was before she was a mother, before she was a wife? And she says she doesn't even remember who she was. So when you mentioned that point, it reminded me of her, because she's been on like a self-discovery path herself, but she's finding some difficulty because anytime she does something, she reverts back to, oh, but am I supposed to be doing this? What are people going to think? What are this? I know you touched on people, mothers, women trying to find out, clearing the stage, as you mentioned, right? Remembering who they were before they decided to become all these things. Do you find that some of them have some hesitation? They're like, well, no, I'm safer over here where I know that this hat is mine because it's been mine for the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Yes. And there is some comfortability in the known. There's comfortability in your previous habits. There's comfortability in that. But there is so much power in allowing yourself to get uncomfortable, because that's when the magic happens, right? And again, if we are so concerned about what anyone else is going to think about our jobs, our outfits, our hair, how we choose to rest and play, we're giving away our power. It's not empowerment, that's disempowerment, right? And we have to embrace. I heard it from somewhere, I can't remember where it was. It says embrace the suck, right? Like just embrace being uncomfortable, because that's when the growth. Get out of your comfort zone. Take a risk. I'm not saying like jump out of an airplane necessarily, but take a risk, take a small risk. Maybe it's literally a hot pink hair extension that you wear out and about. Something small, start small, and then add in another thing, and then add in another thing. And anyone who is going to judge you for that, they're not somebody you probably want to have in your life anyway. Part of what we have to do is kick those toxic relationships to the curb. So if someone's literally judging you for being like, what, I finally found out what I want to be when I grew up, and I know I'm 55, but I'm going to go for it. Someone's saying like, you can't do that. What are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? Someone who's going to be talking to you like that, they're not your friend. Kick them to the curb. Like, I don't have time in my life personally for that type of relationship. I have very good boundaries around the type of people I allow in my life. It's someone who is going to lift me up, who's going to support me, and who's also going to call me out when I need to be called out, because I do, because I'm a human being and I'm very type A, and I'm a little bit of a rebel, sometimes a lot, but that's okay. That's different than someone who's just going to point their finger at you and judge you for what it is you want to be, who you actually are, because I can tell you that who you are, who you truly are, is perfect. It's exactly what the world needs. And sometimes we get to a place where we don't know who we are, like you said, but it's the very things, the rest and the play, that can remind you and who can encourage you, to figure out who you are and what you want out of life.